r/AskReddit. What's that one story you've always wanted to tell on r/AskReddit? But no one has ever asked the right question. A friend from grad school had previously been a skydiving instructor in Colorado, and had jumped more than 600 times. One of these times, he, for some reason, had his wallet in his suit, and it fell out. Fell to earth somewhere. He figured this sucks, but oh well. Absolutely no chance of finding it. Separately, a man in rural Colorado was found murdered. Turns out in their remote cabin where he lived with his daughter, he had been sexually abusing her and she finally had enough and killed him. The police searched the house and all of his property, and found my friend's wallet in the trunk of his car. Police thought to themselves, fucking idiot murderer left his wallet in this dude's trunk, damn easiest arrest ever. Friend had the super believable alibi of couldn't have been me officer, actually that wallet fell out of my pants while I was skydiving. That's so wild. The old dropped the wallet while skydiving trick, eh? Won't work on me. I was once robbed at gunpoint in a public bus. Dude was talking to me like he was my friend while pointing the gun at me. He only asked me for the cash I had in my wallet, and after I gave it to him he kept talking to me like we were random commuters having a conversation. Dude got more confident and asked for my phone. I said no, not the phone man, I need it, and he was like fine, it's okay, don't worry, we chill. 10/10 would be assaulted by him again. To whom it may concern, would you please hand over all of your money and your wallet? Thank you for your time and consideration. My first and worst online date, the drunk and the baby. It's 2008, I'm 18 and I meet a girl on OkCupid. She's older than me, 25 tilde, educated and a bit alternative. We agree to meet at a London pub for lunch at 1 in the afternoon, which is quite a journey for me, but I make it anyway. So, she turns up a bit late with a baby in a baby carriage. I had no idea she had a kid before this, but I didn't have a problem with it. She doesn't address that I didn't know about her kid, but says she couldn't find babysitting. Cool. No problem. We both go up and order a drink separately and hang out and chat. We've been there for about 2 hours and she's gone up to the bar a whole bunch of times, mostly coming back with coffees and the occasional Coca-Cola. But then, quite suddenly, she falls forward onto the table and catches herself with her elbows and takes a big sigh and says, "Oh man. I didn't mean to get so drunk." What? I tell her I didn't realize that she's even been drinking, but she tells me that she's been having Irish coffees, rum and cokes as well as shots at the bar. So at this point I start looking for an out, but she's becoming more and more despondent and her 1-year-old is sat in his pram, so I can't leave in good conscience. I start encouraging her to get a taxi home and she starts to cry, apologizing and saying that I must hate her. But shortly after she closes her eyes and will only respond in mumbles and groans. I try and get her to come around enough to get an address out of her, which I can't, so I take her phone, which wasn't passworded. 2008 non-smartphones, most people didn't password their phone back then. Find a contact called Mom and call it. I was hoping she could come and pick her up, but it turns out Mom lives in the south of Spain. She isn't one bit happy to hear from me after I explain what happened, but presenting myself as a friend. Nonetheless, she gives me an address to get her to. I ask the bar to call me a taxi, which they do, and one of the bar staff take pity on me and help me get the woman, the baby and the stroller into the cab. I was about to give the driver money for the trip and see them off, but I realized that was a bad idea because who knows what would happen? So I get in the taxi to go take her home holding a baby the entire way, which I've never done in my life at that point. Turns out the driver is a stand-up bloke and I explain what has happened and we have a laugh about it. When we get there he even assembles the pram for me as I take her and place her on her doorstep. I find her keys and get her door open, at which point some guy pops his head round the corner from the kitchen and asks, "Who the fuck are you?" I tell him my name and that I'm a friend and ask who he is. He says he's her fiancé. Uh-oh. He's pretty angry that I've gotten his fiancé with his child drunk in the middle of the day. After getting the pram through the door he begins to carry her up the stairs and he says to me, "You stay right there. You and I need to have a little chat." Nope. As soon as he turns the corner at the top of the stairs I turn and make a run for it, jump back in the taxi who I asked to take me to the nearest tube station. Afterward I needed some catharsis, so texted some friends who were locals and went out proper. And the kicker? On the train home that night I get a text message from her. "Had a lovely time. Can't wait to see you again." I block her number and never hear from her again. TLDR, went on date turns up with child and gets drunk without my knowledge. I drag her back to hers to make sure she's safe, only to find she also has a fiancé who is less than pleased to see me. Okay, so I was never a sporty kid in school. I come from the country parts of Ireland, where everyone has thick accents, drinks Guinness, and most importantly, everyone loves football. Of course, I was an antisocial fuck who never went outside, so I never learned how to play nor wanted to. So one day in primary school, the teachers made us all play football. Since I didn't know how to play, I decided to just stand awkwardly near the goal and admire the scenery for the whole game. At one point I became so absorbed in doing absolutely nothing that I pretty much blocked out the sound of everyone else's voices, so I had no idea how the game was going. Towards the end of the game, I was getting rather tired, and was basically half asleep, when suddenly this fucking incredible pain hits my back. I fall over and I literally have no idea what just happened, when suddenly some of the kids on my team went over to me and started cheering and saying, "Yeah, Egg, good job." I just kinda stood there for a moment before realizing what had just happened. Apparently I had just accidentally blocked the opposition's winning goal by just standing there and doing absolutely nothing. TL, doctor, if you want to accomplish your dreams and be praised, all you have to do is absolutely nothing. My husband, then boyfriend, and I were driving to his place. He had one of those cars where the front seat had one combined long seat up front. I had moved over to sit right next to him and he had his arm wrapped around me. At one point, I glanced over to my right and there was a van full of clowns. They were miming making out at us. Like 3 clowns in their front seat. They pulled away laughing. I like to walk quickly. But one day I encountered somebody ahead of me whose walking pace matched mine, possibly even beat it. So I went faster. I strained my ankles, my arms began to swing wildly. But I did it. I eventually overtook her. To assert my walking speed dominance in the most futile way possible, I didn't duck or avoid any of the low-hanging branches that were ahead of me. I plowed straight through them face first, without flinching. I kept my uncomfortably fast swinging arm walk run up until I was sure I was out of sight again. Nobody beats my walking pace. Nobody. I accidentally stole a car. I had just gotten off work. I was working 2 jobs at the time and I got barely any sleep. I walked out and got into my car, started it up, and started driving home. I didn't realize something was wrong until I couldn't find my aux cord, and then I started realizing that there were things in the car that were not mine. Like the child seat in the back. I was an 18-year-old with no kids. I flip a U-turn and bust ass back to work to hopefully get the car back before its owner notices it's gone. I did that. Cops were there and I was very quickly arrested. Owner dropped charges only after 3 things were done. 1. I showed my keys unlocked and started her car. Then pointed to my car, which was the same model, color, and year. 2. One of my coworkers vouched for the fact that the customer parked in the spot I almost always parked in. 3. Camera footage was pulled for the past 9 days I had worked, showing that 7 of those days I parked in that spot and the other 2 I parked close to it. Edit, you all. The cops were doing their job and were polite about it because I cooperated. And the owner was right to be angry. I was a punk-ass kid who in her eyes had just stolen her car. Or at least took it out for a joyride. The owner was a single mother and wasting any of her gas could have meant bad things. Please stop saying they were assholes. I accidentally stole a motorcycle. I allowed a friend to use my bike for about a month while I was out of town, and instead of dropping it off at my house like he was supposed to, he left it outside a student dorm on campus, and the key with a friend. Then he got on a plane and went back to Spain. 2 weeks later I get back and go pick up the key from said friend and go looking for my bike. I get to the area and see it. The bike is fucked. Flat tire, a mirror broken off, covered in dust. WTF. It looks like someone tried to steal it because there are scratches around the keyhole like someone tried to start it with a screwdriver. Key won't go in. Fuck. Push the bike to a bike shop a few blocks over and they get to work. Next day I go to pick up the bike. Key still won't go in. Hey, you guys didn't fix this. No, the lock is fine. Are you sure this is the right key? I look down. Fuck. Now that the bike is clean I can clearly see that this is definitely not my bike. It's a different color. Check license plate. Yup, someone else's bike. I paid the bill and sheepishly pushed the bike back to where I had found it. Found my bike 6 spots over. TLDR, fixed up a stranger's bike. I once got beer using a McLovin ID from the movie Superbad. I was 20, from US, so still underage. I was on a business trip and was waiting for my flight when I decided to get dinner at one of the airport restaurants. The waitress asks me what I'll have to drink and I ask what's on tap because why the fuck not? I order a Corona, but she asks for my ID. So I hand her my McLovin ID. Best $4 I've ever spent. She looks at it, smiles, and says okay, and comes back with my beer. The cherry on top was when she came back a couple minutes later with another beer and gave it to me for free, saying she had accidentally poured an extra. That was the best moment of my otherwise uneventful and vanilla life. Fogel forever. Did you make it through the whole video? If so, thank you for your time. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Have a good day, or night, or evening, or morning, or whatever.